Hello and welcome to the fourth subpool. So we've got a couple of things of note here. We've got a joint submission by Jolt and Margicus, and Jocrates is actually coming back. Jocrates hasn't been around for quite some time, but let's see how these things pan out. Up first we have Jolt and Marge up against Jocrates. Now Jolt and Marge, they've got this guy here who brings a little bit of damage to the field, but their pride and joy is this thing, which, as you can see, is kind of a monster. It's a whole bunch of segments designed to disconnect repeatedly and create debris between itself and the opponent. But we will see how that plays out. Jocrates, however, is bringing a single ship, which you can see it's got mortars, missiles, and the Jocrates style of design. And yeah, we could rename the final pool the Procrastinators pool instead of the Abuse pool. It's been a lot less abusive lately than historically, and played a host to a lot of last-minute submissions. Yeah, I think all four of the ships in the final pool arrived today, and half of them arrived in the last 3 minutes before the tournament. But now you can see Jocrates has built up a pretty big point lead and is circling his prey. Yeah, Jocrates historically brings a lot of engagement with his fleets. They definitely like getting in there and getting fighty, which has gone very well for him in the past. Yeah, dare I say Jocrates is a Jägermeister. Aha. But now you can see the desired effect from Jolt and Marge. The internal segment has actually disconnected from the exterior hull, which is preventing Jocrates from getting anywhere, but is also preventing Marge's ship from getting anywhere. And I think their plan was to have the AI bug out and just kind of drive around the wreckage while the other ship in their fleet does all the work. But Jocrates was able to get out there and actually kill it, and so things did not go according to plan for them. And yeah, it is a neat idea from Jolt Marge. And Jocrates does seem to be pretty interested in grinding himself to death. Nope, never mind. Terran regeneration. He's back at full health now. Yeah, this is Mug's Great Evil Heresy. Yeah, because they were trapped by their own wreckage, the Jolt Marge ship couldn't regenerate either. But now we see Jocrates digging into the juicy center. Guess this is the Tootsie Roll pot, or Tootsie Roll part of the lollipop. And Jocrates takes round one. And round two could kind of go, that's interesting. Game started skipping for a second. But this, I think, is more what Jolt Marge wanted. Was to have the big guy distract the enemy while the little guy does all the damage. But Jocrates is so fast that it's just not working. And now Jocrates is chasing the kiter. And we saw last time Jocrates had very little difficulty actually killing the kiter. He had to put it up on the wall first, but as fast as these two ships are, the wall's not far away. And you can see in the thumbnail up in the top right that Jolt and Marge's ship is rebuilding itself finally. I guess it took a little while to push itself out of its own wreckage, but now it's working on it. And Jocrates killed the kiter, and I don't think there's any way in hell that Jolt Marge is going to be able to put enough points on the board to pull this one back. Jocrates just gets right up in there. But Jocrates takes the match. So next up we have Jolt Marge up against Debris, who's bringing one of his Considerers, which we've seen before, although this looks like a different model. I think the usual Considerer has plasma cannons on the wings instead of just a missile cluster here. He's also bringing a couple of Considerer's children, which one day hopefully they'll grow up to be nice, strong Considerers themselves. Actual Debris has finally made it. You can see the Jolt Marge kiter is having a hard time even killing these little things, which barely have any value to them. Like, I think this is supposed to be the main damage source, but its damage is like a torpedo launcher and 2 missile launchers, which isn't going to get anywhere in a very big hurry. Meanwhile, the Considerer is considering the distractor. And the distractor is dead. Yeah. Well, I mean, the Considerer considers, it's what it does. Although sometimes it also condenses, consumes, condemns, and whatnot. And crystalline missiles have, I think, the longest average lifetimes in the game. It just kind of fires missiles and then they fly forever. I think the Considerer could basically hit a ship based pretty much anywhere in the arena, assuming it's not that fast. But Marge has the advantage of being fast enough to escape it. One of the problems with building crystalline is that their core doesn't generate any power, so if you want to use cannons you have to include generators. There's no, like on a Terran ship, you can include some cannons with no generators, and the cannons will function just fine because the core generates power. Then you get factions like Bees and Sentinels where on most ships you don't even need generators, regardless of your armament, because the core puts out enough power to get by. But that's not the case with crystalline. However, crystalline missiles don't consume any power, which makes them ideal weapons if you're not looking to throw generators on your ship. And the Considerer is truly gigantic. And you gotta remember, if you ever see a Considerer, you gotta go in the no side. You don't want to go in the yes side. You want to go in the no side. Which the Jolt Marge kiter is actually doing right now. So this is promising. This, I think, is what Jolt Marge wanted to happen. Although I think personally what I would have done is split the missiles so they weren't all on the same side. As you can see, the missiles are mostly getting taken out by incidental fire from Jolt March's distractor, simply because they happen to be pathing through the same area. One possible upgrade might be to split the missiles up so that they are more likely to come from other sides. But who knows, maybe that was tried and underperformed. However, the Jolt March Kiter has gone in the no side and is almost done drilling its way to the core. And there it is, the Considerer is down. I said what in the butt? And Jolt March takes round 2. So we've seen that they can do it, but we'll see how Considerer gets on this time. In the first round, as we saw, the Considerer is more than capable of dealing with the distractor by itself. But I think it needs to get its missiles not traveling through the incoming line of fire. I don't know if I'd go about saying rip Jolt Mug yet. They aren't necessarily out of this. The Considerer is damn near alone. We saw before that the Kiter for Jolt March was able to handle the Considerer when it wasn't getting looked at. Which might well be what we see here in just a moment. This, however, is a less than ideal angle to come in. And it appears that Debris is going to win round 3 on points. The Considerer has considered. So next up we have Jolt March up against Klim Hazard. This is a familiar ship from Klim, the Terran Defense Satellite, which largely revolves around the use of the torpedoes and missiles. But let's see how it gets on. Its outer layer of armor is kind of thin. Oh yeah, that's right, it also has an antimatter cannon hidden in it. I forgot about that. Beware the hidden antimatter. The terror of the seas. So far, that thing's going reasonably well for the Terran Defense Satellite. Though the Jolt Marge Kiter and the Terran Defense Satellite seem to be in a deadlock where neither is able to kill the other. Both just a little too fast and whatnot. And Hazard's Kiter managed to take it, so I think that's pretty much the end of round one then. As the mines go drifting into the distractor. And this time you can see that Jolt Marge are managing an early point lead, but with Hazard catching the Kiter, that's going to change pretty quickly. And now it's just the Terran Defense Satellite against the distractor, which I can't help but imagine is every advantage in favor of the defense satellite. Wait. Disrespect. Kind of. Now the forward momentum actually came in really handy there though. It let the Terran Defense Satellite use its mines. And throwing them out in the middle of the hull is actually helping clear the wreckage. Worked out rather well for Clem Hazard. So next up we have Jocrates up against Debris. And I feel like this will probably go in Jocrates' favor. Debris got the Considerer, which is really durable, but I don't know, it all hinges on whether or not Jocrates manages to grind himself to death, which he could very well do. And you can see it just kind of headbutting this giant crystalline ship. Socrates brings a lot more DPS to the field, but all of the damage that's done via collision still counts on the scoreboard, and Socrates' ship basically managed to kill itself. Which, even though I was kind of rooting for Socrates, because I kind of like his ship, the Considerer has taken things into consideration. When I'm setting up these pools, are you guys looking at what everyone else submitted and trying to decide how well you're going to do against it? Is that what's going on here in chat? You can see Socrates has a small point lead, but I don't know. I'm assuming he's probably going to grind himself to death again soon. Even though going in from the no side is optimal, I think Socrates' ship is going to get creative and decide to go suicide itself against Debris' hull. And here we go. Oh no, it managed to escape. But Debris got it nonetheless. So next up we have Socrates up against the Terran Defense Satellite by Clem Hazard. The Terran Defense Satellite definitely has the advantage in range and point defense. The Battle of Attrition, I think, will end up going in its favor eventually. Ah, yeah, it managed to break the shields. Ah, baited him into the antimatter shot. Some mad maneuvering skills from this defense satellite. And Clem takes round 1. A really solid showing. I think Clem will probably end up taking round 2 as well, in a very similar fashion. He's managing to take down the shields, and then with just a couple of hits, do big chunks of armor damage. You can only take that so many times before it's the end of the game. So I do hear that antimatter cannons are tasty, and I intend to test this, but I think we can ask Jack or the Jormicid's opinion, see what it thinks. I suspect it'll tell you that antimatter's delicious. And that went something less than ideal for Clem Hazard. He managed to hit the wall and spin the wrong way, which gave his butt to Jocrates to drop some mortars upon. Always an uncomfortable situation. But Clem Hazard manages to steal it away on points. An excellent showing from the Terran Defense Satellite. But now we have the Considerer up against the Terran Defense Satellite, and it doesn't really matter who wins this all that much, because both of them are going to be advancing. Nonetheless, should make for a pretty interesting fight. I think the Terran Defense Satellite will be able to clean up the children pretty efficiently, which might give it enough uptime on the Considerer itself, but it also may just end up grinding itself to death on the Considerer. Using kiters is pretty risky business in general. You can see the Considerer's children are only like 500 points total for the three of them. And the Considerers decided to consider the wall, it appears. Which I think means Clem is going to be taking round 1 on points. And round 1 to Clem Hazard. I don't know what the current song's name is. It's from the audio library on YouTube. They just have a bunch of copyright-free music, and it's from the Dance and Electronic playlist, but they filled the names in kind of dumb, so all I see on the title bar is no copyright music. It truncates the actual name of the song and artist. Bees don't have point defense cannons, they have point offense cannons. Just saying. And it looks like Clem Hazard may have the best behaved kiter in the pool. It sits here not grinding itself to death on the Considerer. Meanwhile, the blast rate, as you can see on the mines, is actually pretty impressive. Their damage is pretty solid too. Their only real drawback is that they're difficult to use. But when you've got something considering running at you the entire time in a straight line, pretty easy to hit them with them. You know, the Considerer is not considering the mine damage into its decision-making process. And even though Clem is going into the yeah side, you can see here, Clem manages to take the match. So that means we're going to have Clem and Debris moving on to the champion pool. So thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Have a good one.